Welcome to Entrepreneurship with Christo. The following is a conversation with Mr. Nick Boniciolli, an inspiring young entrepreneur based in Adelaide, Australia. Nick is an excellent representation of the entrepreneurial spirit that manifested itself from a heavy metal band in his teen years to a successful alternative funding venture for startups and now Optimal AI, a technology platform creating systems that enhance decision making. Nick, in true entrepreneurial style, tells it like it is while seeing the humorous side of all challenges entrepreneurs face. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Mr. Nick Boniciolli.
So my coffee needs another coffee.
Well, I had a domestic tragedy this morning. I got up to interview I have a preliminary interview like we did with prospective podcasters who I don't know, even though you came through an introduction. But this guy just reached out to me, and but I thought I'd have a 10-minute conversation with him. That's fine. He was in London, and he failed to show on the first one, then apologised, couldn't get the timing right, whatever. And then we tried again, that failed. And then I gave him a third term, which meant I had to get up at 6:30 and normally get up at 7:30. So I got up an hour early. He was a no-show. But when I went to the coffee machine, and I have a very expensive coffee machine, arguably it is the most expensive piece of equipment in my house. Except for my car. Right? It's $4,000 worth of kit. Right.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. I don't fuck around.
Do you even leave the house? I mean, when you have a coffee machine like that, you probably walk past cafes going, nah.
He's my best friend. Thaddeus, the coffee machine. And his grinder. Well, they're two separate pieces of equipment. So there's a machine.
Yep.
And there's a grinder. Grinder's worth $1,000. Machine's worth $3,000. Grinder seized. So I think what happened was I've been grinding to a little bit too fine because I like to sort of extract the flavoursome juices, but also with the humidity in Melbourne, so it's become a little bit moist in there. And so at 6 a.m. this morning, I just came to this grinding halt, which
So what you're trying to tell me is that you haven't had much sleep, you haven't had your coffee. And
That's right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Should we reschedule?
No, it's all right.
Yeah, go for it.
So before I get you to introduce yourself a little bit to the massive audience that we've got, I'm just going to read you something. It's a draft thing that I'm doing a new intro for the podcast because you're number 19 and next week we're going to record number 20 and we'll publish you next week and then we'll publish 20 the following week. And so I on the back of my coffee story, I went up the road. I dropped my son off to school. And then I went to a little coffee shop I like to go to. And I thought it's time to reconsider there was no real agenda with the podcast, but now I'm starting to see a thread. And so, and in a way, you're going to go into possibly go into the fire here, depending on how resilient you are. So I've written this. I started this podcast in June 23. At the time, the idea was to have some fun by working through the challenges of establishing a podcast, and there are many, and fulfilling my personal commitment to doing 20 episodes, which I'm about to achieve. Fun fact, apparently 95% of podcasts don't get beyond episode 5. So,
well done.
Woohoo, man. Next week I'll record the 20th episode, and while there were hundreds of problems to solve, and that's not an embellishment. There were hundreds of problems to solve and things to learn along the way. I'm inspired to keep going. The inspiration comes from the realizations that the need to create agency and sovereignty in our lives is within many of us and possibly all of us. To achieve that, it takes sacrifice, discipline, and facing not only the world and accepting that we can influence that we can only influence, not control, but also facing our fears and unconscious behaviour that don't serve us and those who need to have agency and sovereignty over our lives. That's a convoluted sentence, but I'll improve on that. That might sound nebulous, but it's not. Most people who undertake the entrepreneurial journey start by thinking about what they need to do to be successful, which is, to a degree, of course, pretty rational, until you get into the world you have created in your head that is happening in a kind of digital twin to the actual world. Okay, so you see what you see, what you think you see, but then the actual world is kind of doing its own things. You don't know what it's doing and why it's doing it. The bad news is that it's not. And so now you're operating in that imaginary world rather than engaging the natural world and adjusting your tactics accordingly with that ultimate goal in mind. That journey forges men and women and everything in between into the next version of themselves, me 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, and beyond. So some do it through sport, some through philosophy and religion, and some through the baptism of fire of the entrepreneurial adventure. The challenges along the way, the problems, the knockbacks, the realizations that you are doing what you are doing is not working despite your intelligence, planning, and, for all intents and purposes, the data you seem to have. There is a story that I love that illustrates the paradox while illustrating the need for a clean set of eyes and as we move through that journey. So there's this story, I haven't written it, but there's this story that I tell where there's a guy who was, 100 years ago, he was digging for gold, 200 years ago, he was digging for gold on this property, Ballarat or wherever he was, and he hit gold. And so he invested all this money in this equipment. He says, I've struck a vein. This is it. I'm going to make my millions. And so he invests a lot of money in to get this thing going. And he starts digging. He's pulling out gold, and then bang, it stops. And he's digging, and he's not getting anywhere. And long story short, he endures, he burns through all his money, he burns through all his time, and ultimately he gives up and he sells the plot of land for peanuts to the next guy, Nick. So Nick comes along and he scratches his head and he looks around and he goes, let me get a specialist in gold and I get geology, just see what's going on here. So Peter comes along and looks at it and goes, mate, it's pretty simple. The vein starts here. There was a tectonic shift, 1,000 years ago, a million years ago. And if you dig, to the right a little bit and go down, you'll probably find it. Lo and behold, off he goes. All right. And I love that story because it says, it offers insight and wisdom of the crowd, the people outside your personal view, but also it also offers insight into the resilience that's required, and the facing the reality of your situation to go and try something different, which may be completely counterintuitive. So that's your entree, mate.
This is great. So your podcast has kind of turned a little bit into a therapy session as well. This is fantastic.
That's right. But I'm the primary recipient of that therapy, I'll have you know. This is self-help, Peter Christo 101. So mate, without further ado, welcome to the podcast. Nick, it's a pleasure to have you on. Why don't you tell us a little bit about who is Nick?
Yeah, so I'm the founder of Optimal AI. We solve the tedious challenges of information processing for government and corporate. But I started an entrepreneurial journey in university when I was bored in lectures, started trading stocks.
Is there another type of lecture, is there? A non-boring one?
Well, I did have this one really interesting economics teacher in uni who was quite a character. I don't think he actually followed the curriculum at all, but nice. We all loved that.
I like him.
We learned more there, than anywhere else.
Yeah, I had a tech lecturer like that back in the day.
Yeah. They're always the best, those ones. They go off the cuff and just, are real. But yeah, I was really interested in searching up companies and made some good investments. Not really enough to poke a stick at, but enough to invest in my first business, which was becoming a DJ
Okay.
and starting an entertainment business. And then that went well, turned it into a video production company, which then failed. And then I got into technology, set up a fintech company, one of the first equity crowdfunding companies in Australia, and we're actually selling that company now, which is exciting. And then got into AI, and I've always been thinking about AI. It's always been sort of a passion in the back of my mind, just wondering what types of things can this amazing piece of technology solve. And apart from that, music's always been a huge part of my life. From being in a metal band in high school, and to becoming a DJ, and now I make soundtracks for film. Won some awards there, and so that's a little bit about me, but I guess we'll uncover more in the therapy session.
Sure. Well, I think there was an appalling veneer of who you are, but probably a good place to start. So let me just understand a little bit more about it. So you're an Adelaide boy, Adelaide, Australia. Yeah. For those of you that aren't from Australia, is a wee little town just to the left of Melbourne, which is God's own city. So I actually had the privilege of living there for 5 years, so I actually quite like it.
Oh, great.
So you were raised in Adelaide?
Yeah.
And your siblings, have you got brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I have a brother, Matt. He's over in Texas at the moment. Yeah.
Okay. And we'll talk about him in a sec. And mum and dad, were either of them entrepreneurs?
Both my parents were teachers.
Okay. Oh, interesting. I've heard this before. Yeah. Teachers spawn entrepreneurs. Okay.
Yeah. It's a good way to learn how to get into and out of trouble, I guess.
Okay.
But no. I learned quite a bit from mum and dad, and I think the generosity and also looking at how hard they worked and for the purpose of growing other individuals, I think was a real great lesson I learned from mum and dad. And I carry some of these forward now when you're building a company, a group of people, and really in the role of CEO, you want to grow these people and develop them around you, and you do everything to help these people. And so I really learned that from the care mum and dad had with their students, that nothing was too much trouble for them if a kid needed help.
So am I to understand that you actually grew up in a healthy household with full of love and attention?
Yep.
And that your brother Jack, did you say his name? Jack?
No, Matt.
Oh, Matt. I beg your pardon. Matt, if you're listening to this. If you're in Texas, you probably have an open carry license, so please be kind. So you grew up in I won't even say it's a regular household, so you've grown up, both parents are teachers, loving household, you and Matt, is there much difference between the two of you age-wise?
About 3 years, yeah.
About 3 years. You're the younger one?
Younger one, yeah.
Yeah, I picked that up. And so what does Matt do?
My brother, Matt, is a petroleum engineer.
A petroleum engineer. Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Well, that's the place to be if he's in that, unless he wants to be in the Middle East somewhere. Okay. So off you've gone, and clearly you've got this creative bent. You've got your music, your DJing. Obviously, you're a little bit analytical. You're in lectures, you're getting bored, which a lot of smart people, seem to do. And so then you were propelled into a few different ventures. So take me through again. So were you doing them in parallel, or were you doing them in serial, or what did you do? What was the first one that was a little bit creative and I guess where the penny dropped, you went, hang on a minute, I can do stuff.
Well, to be honest, I think the first time that happened was in high school, and the metal band.
Yeah.
Because
you're in a
that
metal
was the
band.
first time. Yeah.
What were they called? Like, are they on YouTube?
Oh.
We'll pump it for you.
I don't want to tell you now. There's some very hilarious videos of skinny little me headbanging on stage with people crowd surfing and
Well, there's
to the very intense metal music.
I like it. That's where, you know what? There's some interesting insights from people who are right into heavy metal, and generally, my experience has been quite mentally healthy human being, because I think that's a great way to kind of purge the shit out of your life, and then suddenly, okay, I feel clean now. I can just get on with the business of doing me. In fact, I've got a buddy who is similar age to me, and he's been heavy metal nut since we were kids. And we're catching up on Saturday. Funny we should meet. Okay, so the metal band. What insights did you get from the metal band? Like, was it this is a form of expression, or this suddenly could be something I earn money from?
Well, I always had the realistic expectation that I wouldn't make money from music.
Did that come from mum and dad?
Yeah, a little bit, but it also came from every musician you ever talk to, really.
Better love it because it's not going to pay you much.
Exactly. Being in a metal band, really, it was the first time that because we made a lot of music, we recorded albums,
originals.
We won
original stuff.
We were called. Yeah, original music, and so it was the first time I could create something that from scratch that other people really enjoyed. And when you go to these shows, people really enjoy it.
Wow.
They're running around, beating the hell out of each other for fun to your music, and
I love it, my peeps.
So, yeah, and then they're hugging afterwards, and it's really. It was a really beautiful moment that you learn. You can create things that other people enjoy, and so that was number one. And building that, launching our own shows, managing it all ourselves, doing even magazine deals and other sorts of things.
So it got serious.
You get an introduction into business, really.
Yeah. So okay. So I mean, it's more than just you got a band together and you smacked some songs out in the garage. You were getting out there. You were getting some press. You were getting some audience participation. People actually liked your music.
Yeah, and that was a real motivator. I loved the shows. I loved the creative process of building something and getting into the detail of the songs, and they were very complicated songs. Like if any metalheads are listening, it's one of the music genres that have like the most amount of subgenres.
Yeah,
you can really go to any extreme. So it's just this wonderful blank canvas to explore creativity.
Yeah. I have to ask, who are your influences?
Oh, I had more recently a band called Born of Osiris.
I think I've heard of them.
And Opeth has always been a big influence of mine, forever. Everywhere to like Hans Zimmer, I find myself studying the soundtrack in his movies,
right?
That he's in. Yeah.
So you still are an avid listener so your hearing's going fast is what I'm hearing.
I'm hoping that technology catches up by the time my hearing goes.
Yeah, here to that. Here to that.
Mm.
No pun intended. Okay, so
I hope not.
that was. And I guess how old were you then? About 17, I'm tipping.
Yeah, 16, 17. Yep.
Okay, and so going back to what you said about your wonderful parents, and shout out to your folks. Um, uh, did you feel that at the time, or do you feel that now as a slightly older individual?
Feel what exactly?
So that appreciation of what they were giving to you in that supportive, loving environment as a young man growing up with Matt, and a lot of people grow up in a tumultuous environment with their family, and as a consequence become entrepreneurs because they're going to prove everyone wrong, right? So you've probably got the unfortunate situation being told that you're actually a good guy, you're cared about, we're here for you, off you go and do your thing, mate, But did you realize it at the time, or were you a recalcitrant, rebellious son who didn't really quite get the value of what his parents were giving him at the time, and then realize it now looking back in your 2.0 version?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's always been a little bit of rebellion there. Like even going back to the metal again, like mum and dad started me on classical guitar.
All right.
And
good foundation for metal. I mean, I remember I was still in my 20s. I sat a mate of mine, Jabba, in my car, and I put on Metallica, and I forget the piece that starts off. It sounds like it's an orchestral piece before they break into I can't Master of Puppets.
Nothing else matters.
Nothing. It might be nothing else matters. Actually, it might be not. Yeah. And the look on his face. He was just absolutely floored. But it became apparent. I mean, the as you said before, the complexity of the music's, just significant. So it's not for a slouch. It's a good foundation. Okay. So sorry, I interrupted you. Go on.
Yeah, but even starting on that, the rock star in me didn't last long in classical music, and I quit. And then, years. I think my parents had a good way of incentivizing me to do good, even though I was rebellious. So, even with we'll buy you an electric guitar if this term you get 5 A's and 2 B's on your report card.
Yep.
And
or better, 7 A's.
And well, that was like the minimum requirement. And back then I didn't really put a lot of effort in. Like I was passing, right? I was C's and D's.
Yep.
But then they bribed me with the electric guitar, and I thought, okay, this sounds like a good deal. I'll put a bit more effort in.
I might use that with my son. He's turning 18 in the middle of the year, but he's in the middle of VCE. And I'm saying, wait till the end of the year. But I'm thinking about just a shitbox just for him to get around, like that first year, which is going to damage it for sure. But that could be a motivator. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Motivator, bribe, whatever you want to call it.
That's right. Damn you, boy.
And that term I got exactly 5 A's and 2 B's.
They should have just said, look, 7 A's and Stratocaster. Nice. Okay. Yeah. So off you go. What did you study at uni?
Civil and structural engineering and economics.
Okay. What attracted you to that?
Well, I mean, leaving high school, much like everyone else, didn't really know what I wanted to do. I did know that I was really interested in business, and figured, like engineering degree is a really good basis for kind of most things if you want to get into. Like, I don't know. There's a statistic on that. Like, more than half of people who study engineering don't go into engineering; they go into other fields.
Right.
And it's
Like
kind of
lawyers.
training your. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so there's, it's a good thing to train the brain. It certainly helped me after being a master of spreadsheets and so on.
That's a
But
superpower, by the way, in my view. If you're an entrepreneur and you've got a good handle on how to manage a spreadsheet, how to create a spreadsheet, that's a superpower. Because so many people don't know how to use a spreadsheet at all.
Yeah, and I think, and knowing when to stop as well is a great skill in spreadsheet.
Yeah, somebody described that. Actually, it's interesting. Somebody described it in art. You really there's a right way and a wrong way to do the front bit, the beginning of, say, doing an artistic piece. But at the end, you've got to know when to stop, because it'll never be perfect. You've just got to stop, because now you're not really adding any value. It's just there is no perfect. That's the art of it.
Yeah.
You can do 10-year projections of your cash flows, and you know what? Bullshit.
Yeah, and I have done that before. One of the first couple of capital raises that I did with companies. I made beautiful spreadsheets. They were wonderful. They had functions everywhere, even like macros, and some points like it was like a delight. And they got a thumbs up, and that was about it. And so I felt a little bit cheated. And now, one of my advisors, he was the now ex-CFO of the Bill Gates Foundation, and so he's one of the most renowned people in finance that I've definitely ever met.
Yep.
And he's advised me, like, don't spend time on these projections. Just lay down your thoughts and tell the story about tell the financial story. And so that was really great advice.
So not in a spreadsheet, in a narrative, or both.
Still in a spreadsheet, but like the spreadsheet is kind of almost like the visual aid to the story,
right?
About the growth and what unique things in your experiences have you uncovered that would be interesting to investors as well.
That's extraordinary. That's I've never heard that before. I think it's great advice. It's really great advice. The really good advice that I got when I was doing my masters was really just structuring that spreadsheet with having the assumptions based, or the base case, and and whatnot. But really having some sort of a control panel where you can change everything, which then affects everything: your cash flow forecast, your terminal valuation, your revenue projections, all that sort of thing. And so somebody can challenge your thinking and see whatever yield you're going to get. But the reality is that it's still just an imagined scenario of assumptions that are tied into, and you can only if you compound costs, then it's just going to do the hockey stick up, right? So you've got to think that through, and engineering that's tricky, but telling the story, with if I'm getting what this gentleman has said to you, I guess with the uncertainty at play and how you would, I guess, respond to those to things that manifest along the way, I think is a much more sensible way to go.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Why is that 100K recurring revenue or 200K recurring revenue more important? Other than, hey, it's traction.
Yeah.
It could be this is from enterprise customers that are later, not your typical early adopters of AI, or like these like additional bits that really shape your financial story. And I think that's probably the best approach. It's all storytelling, whether you're using a spreadsheet or a pitch deck. That every conversation is a data point.
Sure.
Yeah.
So how did you manage to get this gentleman on your advisory team?
Well, it was through another advisor who said, you need to talk to this person. And I actually looked him up on LinkedIn, but he had a very common name, and
Bill Smith.
so
I got a mate. His name's Bill Smith. I tell him I don't believe that's his real name.
yeah.
I've only known him for about 40 years.
Long story short, I looked up the wrong person, and I was kind of thinking, oh, I mean, he's the CEO of some engineering company, but I trust my advisor. I'll go meet with this person, and see what kind of magic comes out of that conversation. And then, the person in the photo had a big beard, and then he turned up on the call, and I was like, wait a minute. I know nothing about this person that I'm about to talk to.
So it was the wrong person that you first met. This is the wrong person?
Yeah.
Oh,
no, I thought it was someone else, and then heard this amazing story about all of his incredible accomplishments and how humble he was and helpful. And so I've only recently told him that the first time I met him, I thought I was meeting someone else. But
that is so funny. And he led you to the other guy. He was the one that then referred you to the gentleman from the Bill Gates Foundation. This episode is sponsored by 3P Legal. I've been a customer of Peter North as my lawyer and now 3P Legal for over a decade. Peter and his team are friendly and approachable, which takes the stress out of having to navigate the complexities of legal business matters. Whether starting a business, buying or selling a business, handling contracts or estate planning, their personalised attention and quality of work is second to none. Find Peter and his team at www.3pcorp.com.au or email pnorth@3plegal.com.au if you need commercial or personal legal services, particularly if you're a startup.
Well, the person I got wrong was the guy from the Bill Gates Foundation.
That is
yeah.
I understand now. That is hysterical, and that is, oh my God, the universe, like the God. I don't know. God just, I don't know. Does he play dice?
with me, I think he does. So there's a lot of my stories where I end up meeting great people,
yep.
Who changed my life. I kind of stumble into them somehow. So,
but look, it's an important. It's kids that you have the spreadsheet thing, highlight that. And the other thing is that roll the dice a little bit and take those chances, and what's going to happen? You're going to get a no. But you got the diametrically opposite of a no. Not only did you get somebody who was valuable, that had that and probably an immense network themselves, and had the kindness to turn his focus to this unknown guy from Adelaide, and now he's an advisor. Like that's awesome. It doesn't get any, you've been kissed on a private part by God.
Yeah, well, I think if you have the tenacity to keep going in this sort of crazy space, then good things will happen randomly, and
absolutely
if you can take stock of it and embrace it all, then I guess that's lucky.
I guess you let the universe do its thing. My partner says, drop the breadcrumbs on the pond and see what bites, right? Just just keep throwing them out there, and that's really what you did. And I guess it's a salient point, because so many people don't want to make a mistake. So many people stay in that contemplative stage. I have, in my consulting side of things, clients come and let's just work all this out so nothing goes wrong, dude. So many things are going to go wrong. The worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to do nothing, because you can see all these things that are going to go wrong. And then you go, you know what? I don't want those things to go wrong. Well, you need those things to go wrong so you can actually find out what, that stepping stone to what's right.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, if you're constantly pivoting, you need to at least be moving forward in some direction while you do it. Otherwise, you're just spinning on the spot. So you need to take a bet on something, and I guess once you fail, then that's just another data point to go, oh, okay, maybe I should move that into a different direction, and got to move while you pivot, for sure.
Okay. Well, I think it's probably time you tell us about Optimal and how did you I guess, conceive of it? Were you the original, idea holder, or did you was it a meeting of the minds with your partners?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely me and my co-founder, just riffing around, this was back kind of when we had another company, called Joey Crowd, and so back then it was a funding platform, and we were thinking, oh well, what like about the customers, about investors, and what's the biggest problem that investors go through? What's the bottleneck in all of this? And it's the amount of screening and due diligence that they had to do to see if a deal was worth investing in. And I think that's something like 60% of every investor's time goes into that. And so we thought, oh, this is a big problem, and we've been talking about, we want to do like AI for ages. Maybe AI can solve this. Maybe we can figure out some models to throw together and see if we can figure this out. And that didn't get off the ground because investors weren't at that point, I think, quite ready to go so data driven with their money. And so we then launched Optable as a separate venture together, and we went and spoke to. We thought, who has these big information like bottlenecks? Like who are the people that are going through forms and trying to screen things and applications? And so we thought, oh, government. We found out the problem was 6 times larger with government.
So many thoughts come to mind.
As you would know with your background, Peter, as well. And then we thought grants, and we pitched everyone we could find in starting off with the innovation department here in South Australia.
Right.
Until I think they all came to a meeting and said, "Hey, I met these guys, Nick and Samir. I had some ideas," and then other people around the table like, "Oh, he talked to you as well."
Nice.
Maybe we should give these kids a shot. And we then applied for a Go2Gov grant, which was basically build your prototype with government, test out the theory, and if it all goes well, then they become a customer. We thought, brilliant, this is a great way to go. We can bootstrap our way into getting an enterprise customer. And so we did that, and then we found out Optable was really, really effective, and we could save 90% of the effort with assessing things like grants at 99% accuracy, using our models. And so, the challenges with information processing, we believe we can solve with decision-ready data and automated workflows.
So the use case was great. So hang on, just to go back to your business, Joey Crowd, I think it was called. Were you running that in parallel while you were spinning up Optable?
Yeah. And Optable kind of just really took off. And so, that was kind of when we decided, okay, well, we'll look to sell Joey Crowd. We have the financial licenses, it has some value. So we'll look to sell that and focus all our attention on Optable.
Okay. So it emerged, and you just had to make a call on it.
Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. Yeah. So government. So the use case for government was clear, and also then they become a customer. They give you money. They test your use case, and then they become a customer, and that's a nice stepping stone into the broader market. So what is the current state of Optable? So you've raised capital, yes?
Yeah, we raised some capital, and now we have top 10 ASX customers, and we have multiple government departments using our system. We've built the most advanced grant assessment platform globally that uses AI not just to be more productive when assessing. It learns your criteria. It also extracts like 1,000 times the amount of data automatically, because no one likes doing manual data entry.
Of course.
Usually there's no time for that as well. So we find all these new insights from every sentence, and that can really help the government to to better support their community. But one of the other things, a lot of people talk about, is there bias in AI? Our system's actually being used to maintain a consistency with assessment as well, so that you can make better decisions. So we're all, as humans, we have a bad day, our coffee machine breaks in the morning.
Yep.
Some of these things happen sometimes, and perhaps we might be a bit harsher when we assess things, and that's just, it's natural, it's human. And so having a AI there to help you screen things and do it in a consistent way, it actually makes things more fair and equitable as well.
Yeah, I would imagine so. So the business, it's washing its own face. It's making money now.
Yeah.
Okay, and so I'm imagining. Okay, so you've sold one use case. What are the other sort of use cases that you're looking at? I've got a couple of ideas, but what's apparent in terms of, I don't know if you ever read Jeffrey. Have you heard of Jeffrey Moore, Crossing the Chasm? I presume you have heard Crossing the Chasm. He wrote another.
Yeah, I haven't read it, but yeah, I've heard.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty simple concept. Worth reading, or somebody can explain to you in 5 minutes. But basically, there's that valley of death just after the early adopters, where you're trying to go into the early majority. But he wrote another book. I can't remember the exact name of it, but it was basically this bowling alley approach. So you've solved for use case number 1, government grants, and so you've smashed the pins down, right? So now, what's the bowling alley? What's the lane right next to that, and to the left and to the right, right? And so you might go, okay, it might be whatever it is. So it's not grants assessments, but it's some other thing, right? That looks the same, walks the same, smells the same, but it's not the same,
Yeah, and see, that's actually one of our biggest challenges, is that we're a solution like Optimal can be very industry agnostic. Almost every organization, business, or agency has to process information. We're all searching through mountains of information to find the bits, and so insurance, for example, would be a great use case for us. Thousands of businesses or homes get flooded, and which ones meet which bids, which applications meet the PDS, or visa applications. Millions of people applying to enter the country. Which one? How do they decide who enters? Right. Not to mention the massive backlog problems that they already have. Speed that up, and we could have our pick of the bunch of the kind of skill sets this country needs. Like, there's so many examples, and so we've built systems that for flood recovery grants, very adjacent problem to looking at insurance claim assessment as well. So we could very easily train our system to do that.
Have you approached the industry, the insurance industry? Have they welcomed you with open arms?
I'm starting to now, and so if there are people listening, please talk to me, because I'm very curious on the nuances and how to make this a perfect application for that and do some good. Yeah,
sure. So we'll obviously have your details in the post and whatnot. Okay, so international.
Yes, yeah. Currently, all English speaking countries. Because that's what our model is, the language is changed with. So
I'm suggesting, are you expanding internationally, or do you already have international clients?
We don't have international customers just yet. We are. That's on the next step for us. We're Australia. Like, of course, it's still a very, very warm market for us. We've barely scratched the surface here. So of course we're going to continue our focus here. But as the years go on, I'm thinking a lot more of the attention is going to come internationally.
Yeah, sure. And so from a I guess so you're full time on this job now.
Yep.
And obviously, you're the talking head of the business. So doing podcasts or TVCs or whatever you've got to do. How do you balance off the other side of your life? Are you married, kids, a couple of little ones running around, or is that too busy, moving too fast for all that?
I have a lovely partner, Amy,
Shout out to
and
Amy.
she's an entrepreneur. She's an
No danger.
an entrepreneur
Not
herself.
two entrepreneurs in the household. Trust me when I tell you don't want that. You don't want that sort of chaos. That is chaos. A recipe for disaster. Great sex, but
You're right. It is chaos, but also with that comes a really lovely mutual understanding and support. So I can come home and I have a bad day. I talk to her about it, and she just understands.
Yeah.
It's like, I had that bad day last year.
Right. What is she? What industry is she in?
So she's a chemical engineer who's created this incredible nutrient dense food powder,
Right.
which actually is really relevant now, considering how expensive it is to go to the grocery store. And a few scoops of her product is like you're like a meat and veg meal.
It's real,
right? She almost got, actually, let me just fangirl over Amy for a bit. She almost got into a space accelerator for her product,
really?
for being one of the most nutrient dense food powders that could potentially get be used to get astronauts to the moon, to Mars.
Really?
So to survive the journey, you want something compact that gives you everything you need. And when we moved to London, half my suitcase was filled of her products. Because,
did customs cavity search you on the way through? What is this stuff? What is this white powdery stuff here?
That was a risk. Yeah, but luckily they didn't stop us at the airport.
Fantastic. So what are the main things that you want to achieve with the business in 2024? What do you envisage should happen by Christmas this year?
Yeah, so a few things that we've touched on in this conversation, actually. I mean, we're raising capital. We've the past couple of years we've been really focused on just building an incredible product and finding credible, delighted customers, and that's what we sculpted our team or our hires around. Who can help build amazing products and who can really pay attention and care with customers. Now we're ready to scale. So we have a product that's been proven, and so we want to scale. We want to go into these new industries, and there are so many industries that we can discover that Optible can help with the information processing tedium. And so new industries and international customers, and so that's our focus, as well as we've been focusing also a lot on not just growth metrics with the business. Each of our customers essentially gets their own AI model.
Yep.
So we've really focused on how can we train a model really quickly for each customer, and that there's a cost for us. And typically takes a lot of effort, but quarter on quarter we've been able to reduce that time by about 50%. So we're focusing on reducing our COGS as well with this business quite a bit, and so really going towards that, like zebra versus unicorn. I don't know if you've seen the latest trend is zebras now.
Okay. What's a zebra? What's a zebra? I know what unicorns. I've got 5.
Well, I think in short, it's just really about focusing on building a proper business, with good margins that can survive. Or maybe that's camel. I don't know.
Who's thinking this stuff up? Like, seriously. Is that a job? The zoo, the whole zoo, the monkeys. There's the monkeys, you know, there's the water birds.
Oh, maybe that'll be next year, the year of the flamingo.
That's right.
For startups.
That's so funny.
But that's been we really want to build a proper business and one that can be self-sustaining and not just focus on the vanity metrics of growth.
Yeah.
Though even though that's important, cash can solve a lot of things. So
yeah,
that's really our focus.
Fantastic. So that sounds like a sensible thing. I'm actually quite heartened that people are starting to talk about a business that is sustainable and actually making a profit. And it's radical, mate. Like, it's radical. This is back into your heavy metal thing. I'm wondering. I'm just sort of circling back a little bit to the whole AI thing in terms of biases and ethics and. Obviously a lot of the discussion or the discord in the Twitter sphere and cybersphere is large language models that have been developed by people with left leaning right leaning and apparently you can't get, was it out of I can't remember which one it was. It was Google's AI. What's that? Bart? No, is that Bart?
Gemini.
Oh, Gemini. Yes,
yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. But you couldn't get a. They would say, give me a king from the Middle Ages, from the UK, and there were every nationality except for a white guy.
Yeah. Yep.
So very strange things and. The woman who was trying to explain it out of Google, I think needs help. I think needs help.
Oh, look, yeah. I think when it comes to historical inaccuracies, so that's
But you must face. But you must face some challenges where it's saying, okay, see, we want diversity in our cohort of grantees, so therefore. You need to pick this up in the grant application, which I think is flawed in its thinking fundamentally anyway. But so you must have to accommodate things that probably would compromise the integrity of the actual AI of doing a legitimate job.
Yeah, so that was a real. We thought a lot about how we would. Develop Optimal and the product to avoid those problems and what we essentially landed on is, well, we want something to reflect the guidelines, the requirements of the assessors, and so they train it, they educate it on its criteria, but also there's always a human in the loop there.
Yep.
So while Optimal might suggest, hey, these a big group of these applications are just clearly ineligible. For us now, it's like, well, you don't need 6 assessors to read every single one. Now, then one of the assessors can double check those and make sure.
Right.
And so we can redeploy a lot of these. A lot of those tasks that from the tedious tasks to now, well, they can look at the data and they can have meaningful conversations with their boss about the applicant universe they're trying to support.
Sure.
And so that's kind of how we've gone about that problem. I think you're right. Like that large language trained on the internet, there's a lot of it's a much bigger concern and challenge, and I don't know how they're going to go about solving that. Yeah.
Well, I think the simple answer from that, and I think it was Elon Musk was talking about it. Just you can have big organisations with AI offerings, and you're kind of deciding whether you go the Microsoft one or the X one or you can have an open source community with thousands of AI and they're all kind of an ecosystem that's interacting, and it's going to find its place. So the minute you you bring your personal view, lens that you see the world through, and everyone's going to be this way, regardless of the reality. We'll talk, actually, that little thing that I read at the beginning, regardless of the reality of the world and what trajectory it's going on, and what's right and what's fair and what's true. I think it'll find, water finds its own level. And you can't defy gravity for long. Jump up. You might be up there for a second. It'll come down. I think the pendulum's swinging back to reality. Nick, why don't we end it there? But I might just give you a little bit of space to sort of tell people about the business, where they can find you. I'll include all that in the notes, of course. And hopefully we can have you on again sometime and just see how things are going in a year or so. Hopefully we're still here. Well, we're both still here and doing the various things that we're doing. But hit us.
Yeah. So if any of this has been interesting to anyone about Optible, then by all means reach out to me on LinkedIn, or also optible.ai. Is our website, and you can contact us from there as well.
Okay. Yeah. Do you run an x.com Twitter feed?
Sorry.
Do you have a Twitter handle?
I do not actually. I think I know. I can see the shock on your face.
What? Elon, cover your ears, mate.
To be honest, I generally avoid social media if I can.
Isn't it?
But I do look at my LinkedIn, so that's why I did.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, we'll put all that up there. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the rest of the week. And look, thank you so much for the open and transparent way in which you responded to my questions. You're a successful guinea pig. We'll leave it there.
It's been great. All right. Thanks, Peter. Have a good day.
Thank you. Well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Nick Boniciolli. I had a lot of fun with that interview, or that conversation with Nick. It was a little bit different to what we normally do, and I'm just trying to go with the flow. I hope you enjoyed it, and please feel free to send me some feedback at hello@entrepreneurship.au or via the messaging in YouTube. Thanks, and see you next time.